there's so many people that live this if then life. If I get a college scholarship and if I get a degree and then if I get a good job and if it pays me money, then I can start living my life. And I think that's completely backwards. I want to start with the then right now, because you can't wait for life to happen to you. You got to kind of happen to life.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Heart Inspired, the show dedicated to highlighting individuals in their pursuit of authentic leadership. We peel back the layers to uncover the roadblocks we all face, explore the actions we can take, and how to persevere towards the best version of ourselves. It is my hope that you'll be inspired by their story and gain some insights to help you in your own journey. We live in a time when 5 generations work side by side, each with different experiences and ways of communicating. Whether it's within corporate America, sports, or the arts, all age groups are looking for authentic, inspiring leaders. We need leaders to model compassion, empathy, and patience in the workplace. In this series, I sat down with amazing leaders who shared their insight on what has worked for them and what is needed today. Join us to discover how necessary, effective communication and leadership skills help all generations succeed. Ken Rusk is a best-selling author, entrepreneur, and blue-collar advocate that proves there is no degree needed to achieve comfort, peace, and freedom. Ken spent his younger years digging ditches and working in construction. College was not the path he chose. Instead, he planned, set goals, and worked hard for 30 years. Today, Ken is a very successful entrepreneur with multiple businesses and revenue streams. In addition to being a successful entrepreneur, Ken is passionate about helping people achieve their dreams, regardless of their educational background or past. He specializes in mentoring and has coached hundreds of young people in areas such as short, mid, and long-term goal setting, life visualization, career paths, and sound financial planning. In Ken's book, Blue Collar Cash, he shares his insights from over 30 years of working in blue-collar trades as an entrepreneur, mentor, and life coach. Please welcome my guest, Ken Rusk. Hi, Ken. How are you?
Michelle, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I am so excited about this discussion. Your book, I was drawn to it as somebody who's done some college, not all, but I'm really excited to hear more about your journey and the work that you're doing, mentoring those who have chosen a different path. So ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so tell us where it all began.
Well, my father, I had 4 brothers and we were all under the age of 9. So there was 5 boys running around our very small house. At the same time, my father was he was a retired Marine. So he was pretty regimental, let's just say, about how he ran the household. And he did everything we needed him to do. I mean, he's amazing father. He raised us well, clothed us, fed us, protected us, did all the things. And he also taught us that if we wanted something way beyond that, like if we wanted, instead of wearing my brother's hand-me-down jeans, if I wanted a brand new pair, I had to go find a way to earn the money to buy them. So that was kind of set early when I was 12, 13 years old. But my first real job was when I was 15. My high school shared a fence with an industrial park. And there was a hole in that fence and we cut through the hole to get to the carry out after school and just hang out and do what kids did back then. So I remember walking through this industrial park and there was just all this energy, people milling about, businesses, things really going crazy. People trying to earn a living and whatever. And this one business in particular caught my eye and I knew somebody that worked there. So I went up and I said, "What do you guys do here?" And they said, "Well, we basically dig ditches." So I said, "Okay, well, I'm trying to buy my first used car. I like to take my girlfriend out for pizza or go bowling with my buddies. I can do that." And so I did. I dug ditches. We fixed old rotten basements. We did that in the summertime. And then in the winter, when I was still in high school, I would work in the office after school. And I did that for 3 or 4 years to the point where it was either, okay, now what do I do? Do I go full time or do I go to college? What do I do? And they came to me and said, "Hey, listen, we're opening franchises around the Midwest, and you kind of know the front and the back side of our offices. So why don't you help us do that?" So I literally had to make that decision. So I traveled to Columbus, Cincinnati, Chicago, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I started businesses from scratch on somebody else's dime. I mean, there was an owner
Wow.
who wanted us to help open the franchise for him. So I did that for 3 or 4 years, living out of a suitcase. And that's no fun if you've ever done that for a long period of time.
And how old were you when you
I was,
started this?
I would have been 18, 19 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that point, I decided to come out to Toledo. My brother and I moved out here, and we opened this company back in '86. Started with 6 people, and I think latest count's 200. So it's been one heck of a ride.
That's some story. 6 to 200. That's a good return.
Yeah,
So-
we needed the growth. I mean, it was something where we all knew kind of what we wanted our life to look like. So we just kept going after that. And that just created and fueled more growth, and, had necessitated us to get more people on staff. And I think I've probably hired in the last 36 years, I think I've probably hired 2,000 some odd people. So it's been really interesting.
Wow. And so have any of the ones that you started with become like leaders in your own company?
Yeah. So of those original 6, 3 of them are still here. But the greatest news there is, when you're running a company that does something that we do, where it's dirt and jackhammers and concrete, and it's hard work. So you have to build a really cool culture just to keep that thing going, just to keep people around and interested. And so it's funny when I hear these companies of late saying, yeah, we're really working on our culture. Cause like I've had to do that for the last 30 years,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not selling Ferraris here. You know what I mean?
There's nothing sexy about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm proud to say that I've probably got 30 people that have been here north of 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. So
That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you mentioned work culture. What is it about you and the style that you have instilled in your company that you feel is missing in today's work culture in corporate America?
Well, I never wanted to be the top down, the guy who sits on the top floor with this huge desk and everyone's trying to climb I never really wanted to do that, because I just thought that was too much for one human being to endure, So early on, I thought, well, I probably said this 100 times in front of my company. I could never get what I wanted for myself, nor could my company get what it wants or needs until all of you get what you want first. And it's absolutely true. If you think of the beginning input of the company and then the final output, I'm kind of at the end of the final output. So many good things need to happen before I can be successful for other people. And to me, that just seemed to make a lot of sense. So I tried to create a space where people felt like they were entrepreneurial employees, which is a quote that Tom Golisano uses in his book, which is great, founder of Paychecks. And I thought if I could get people to feel like they were controlling their own destinies within the 4 walls of my company, then it would work great. And I got to tell you, I mean, they're like, okay, Ken, thanks. Get out of our way. Let's do this. And they've taken the company a lot further than I couldn't have ever taken it myself. That's for sure.
Yeah. So you not being a traditional college grad and learning all of this, what were some of the things that you did other than running this business that gave you the skills to be successful as an entrepreneur?
In the book, I talk about that when it comes to the characteristics that entrepreneurs have. But the difference, I think, is, a lot of times you'll get these people with 6 or 7 letters after their name talking about, entrepreneurship and I think to myself, okay, well, that might be like the icing on the cake of definitions there. But to me, anyone can be an entrepreneur once they know why they're doing it. Okay. Once they answer the why. I mean, if I know what I want my life to look like in really clear detail, all of those things, persistence, resilience, faith, initiative, courage, charity, generosity, all those things just come alive in people because they have to get to that place that they see so clearly in their mind. And I think all those entrepreneurial characteristics just show up in every one of us. And it has to be true, because you'll hear somebody who invented a different type of ice cream scooper, and then, all of a sudden it went crazy, or the My Pillow guy, you think about all these things.
Yeah.
We're just everyday Americans became very successful people. It's because they had something that was driving them. And so I always start with, what's your nirvana look like first? Now let's find a way, find a plan and a path on how to get there.
Do you have a vision board?
I do. Yeah. My entire office is a vision board. I used to have it on like a cardboard where I would draw on it, but my whole office is now vision boards. There's photographs and stuff all the way around. And I like to not only think about what I'm doing next, but also remember and celebrate what I've already done. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out in front of me at any one time.
So you have definitely achieved a lot and continue to give. What would you say? I know you do a lot of mentoring. What's that message that you're pushing through to them to help them achieve their dreams?
Well, first off, there's so many people that live this if-then life, if I go to high school and if I get good grades and if I score high in my ACT, and then if I get a college scholarship and if I get a degree, and then if I get a good job and if it pays me money, then I can start living my life. And I think that's completely backwards. I want to start with the then right now, because, you can't wait for life to happen to you. You got to kind of happen to life. That's the way I look at it. So many people, they never look beyond Friday or the end of the month or the end of their bills or whatever, because they don't think they are in control of that. And as soon as you start to open their eyes to, simple things like, what if you had a house, what would be your favorite dwelling? Like, what kind of house would you like to live in? Okay. Well, let's draw that out in precise detail. Okay. House, condo, apartment, farmhouse, suburban, whatever. And then you just keep moving on. Like, what's your favorite form of transportation? And, don't all say Lamborghini, because you can't put groceries in a Lamborghini. So let's be real. And you'll get, well, I really would love to drive one of these pickup. Okay, fine. Let's draw that out. And as you continue with this vision board, this visualization thing, I get down to, what kind of pet would you have? Dog or cat? What color? What would you name it? You get into what would be your charity moment if you did have that $500 that you had to give away to somebody else. What would you do with it and why? And then your hobbies, your vacations, draw all that out, because if I know where I'm going, if I know what I want my life to look like, there's a lot of different ways that you can get there.
When you're in the midst of day-to-day operations, and maybe, you have somebody else who's doing that, but when you're collaborating with your team, when they're getting a little bit lost, how do you bring them back to what you just talked about?
Well, that's a great question. So what I try to do is keep them all focused on two things. What are they chasing as an individual? This is time to be selfish. And I don't mean selfish at the detriment of others. I mean, selfish like you. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you chasing? How crystal clear is that in your mind? And how clear is the path for you to get there? Is it actuated? Is it in action? Are there mechanisms happening to propel you towards that goal? So that's number one. And then number two, I try to also incorporate a group goal where, if at the end of the year, if we do certain things, we all go rent a house in Jamaica somewhere and have a blast. And I've been doing that for 20 years. And that seems to be the glue. There's two things, because you can get lost on your own individual selfish path, but when you're part of a bigger team result, the others kind of get in and make that, more of a, we're all in the boat rowing together thing.
Yeah.
So I think if you attack it on two ways, you tend not to lose the focus there.
Yeah, that's good advice, because these days, with great resignation being a big topic, quiet quitting being another buzzword, so many others. And the fact that with COVID, when everything shut down, schools became a challenge for people. Mm-hmm. Money became a challenge for people. There's a lot of, floundering or being lost or what's next. And so it's important to have an ally to kind of come alongside you and hold you accountable or be there for support. Yeah.
I talk about that in the book. I tell a story about when the first time I ever jumped off the high dive. Okay.
Okay, do tell.
Well, you walk up to the high dive, and the first 10 times you turn around and you walk away, right? I'm not doing this. This is insanity. And then you jump off the low dive and the medium dive, and then you go, you know what? I'm going to go do this. But I can tell you, you probably have never done that without the encouragement of somebody else. So I remember very clearly climbing the last 4 or 5 rungs to that high dive and looking down at my 4 buddies who were all going, you got this. I mean, I was probably, I don't know, 5 years old. Okay. You
oh
got
my
this.
goodness, young.
And you get up and you're standing at you're holding onto the rail and you look down and you want to turn around and go back, and you look down at them and they're encouraging you. And finally you go out to the end of the board, you give them one more look, and then you close your eyes and launch, right? I just remember the satisfaction of not only hitting that water, knowing my buddies were with me, but then when I came up out of the water, seeing them, cheering. And it was like, yeah, you can't do this on your own. You can't really do a lot of great things without at least somebody there with their hand on your shoulder saying, hey man, keep going, you got this.
So in all the years that you've been this entrepreneur, starting at a very young age, who's been a mentor for you? Who do you still have those same buddies who cheer you on? You've got this?
Yeah, I tend to have, I've been very fortunate. Now, I did move out of town, so I lost a lot of my high school friends that, we all moved across the country and did what we did. But I've had a lot of very good friends since I've lived here that I've had for 30 years that, we kind of have this unregulated kind of group think thing. There's 4 or 5 of us that knock ideas back and forth and what have you. But I would say that my father was a really big influence, because even when he started to become really successful, he didn't just hand anything to us. Like he might have been driving a really nice car, but I had to go buy my own car.
Yeah.
And looking back on that, you would think, well, wow, that was kind of radical, but no, that was some pretty damn good advice. And, I would say he was a good influence. I would say that the gentleman that I first worked for, that I first signed up to do the ditch digging, and he was a guy who led a really crazy, almost fast-paced kind of, romance type of life. And there was a lot of good examples to follow there. Things like, wow, I saw my first really nice cars. I saw my first really nice parties, and it was just something to be healthy and to look healthy and to dress good and to find some of those things that that you can enjoy. And I would say those 2 people are probably my biggest influences.
Wow. And so as you've had mentors. Are there some key people who, I know you have a huge pool of employees with you, but are there some key people who you are mentoring on a one-on-one like that?
Yeah, a long time ago, I recognized that it seemed like in all the hiring I was doing that the people coming in were less and less prepared for life. And so I kind of designated myself an involuntary life coach. So yeah, I would help them straighten out their driver's license, get their first credit card, their first apartment, their first car, whatever. So I did a lot of that. And then that just kind of grew. One of the gentlemen that I mentioned earlier, the first of the original 6, he's now on his 2nd or 3rd house. He's got rental property, put 4 kids through school, and he's got a great retirement. And he wants to blame all that on me. Okay. And I'll tell him, I said, look, I might have had 2 or 3% to do with this because I taught you how to visualize, but you did the rest of it. Yeah. So he now sets a good example for all the others here. And yeah, we have a whole wall full of people that are chasing something, and it's documented on the wall with begin dates and end dates and steps to get there. And it's a lot of fun to watch people win for themselves.
Oh, and celebrate those wins. That's pretty awesome. So
yeah,
vision board.
This board is between the 2 bathrooms. So everyone sees it probably twice a day. But yeah, you go there and you'll say, hi, oh, wow, she's almost done paying off that car, or he's almost done, with his Spanish. He wants to learn how to speak Spanish, or this one's going to Ireland to visit her cousin. So she's almost there. And you can kind of see the progression. And then we have this long list of the ones that have achieved on the left side of this board. And it's kind of a historical marker for not only the people that are involved in it, but for new people that come in and go, wow, this company really cares about my future.
So let me ask you something. You mentioned he and she, and so to clear that up, you have a company that's digging ditches, biased as I may be, predominantly male. But what would you say your percentage is, male to female?
Well, I can tell you that I have, for all of the major departments except for two, are all run by females. And they're, again, I applaud that. We don't have many people that are female that are actually doing the digging of the ditches. They just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say of the 200, there's probably 60 females or more in the company in various forms of marketing or this or that. My controller is a female, the head of finance is a female, the head of HR is a female, the head of employee benefits is a female. I mean, so yeah, there's quite a few of them that, all of our customer service is female. I mean, yeah, it's
That's great. That's great. So, you had mentioned that you ask a specific question, and maybe now your HR is doing that, I don't know. But when somebody comes on board, tell us a little bit about what that looks like. What's the first question you're asking them?
Well, it used to be that you could put an ad in the paper for hiring, and the next day there was 10 people sitting in your foyer all wanting a job. Those days are gone. That doesn't happen anymore. So now you might have 2 or 3, and at least 2 of them are looking at you saying, "Hey, dude, what's in it for me to work here?" So I kind of embrace that. If you're not careful, you can make that a negative, but I take that on as a positive, because I look right back at that person and say, "Okay, what's in it for you to work here?" Well, let me tell you. Let me ask you first, why are you here? Okay, what are you looking for out of a place to work? And it's typically the answer is, well, I want to get paid, or I want to, a paycheck I can count on. Okay, for what? Well, to pay my bills. Well, okay, so what do you mean bills? Well, I got this, and that. Okay, so if you were beyond just getting paid and paying your bills and surviving, what would that look like? And you have to ask 4 or 5 questions deep to get to this answer. But eventually they look at you like, you mean you're actually interested in what my future looks like? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So then they start dreaming a little bit. And you know what a dream is? A dream is nothing more than a series of pictures you put in your own mind, right?
Right.
And you and only you know what those things look like. Nobody else can tell you that, or they can try, but it won't mean anything to you. So I asked them, why are you here, and what's in it for you, and what does your future look like, and how can we help you get there? And that seems to change the whole dynamic.
That's really awesome. More companies should be doing that. I know there's a lot of talk about it. Social media definitely promotes that, but is it really happening? Not sure. And so that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, but it's amazing to me how many companies are going, wow, all of a sudden I got to start caring about my culture. And I think I've been caring about my culture for 30 years only because I was forced to,
Right.
Type of work that we do. So, but yeah, I mean, they're late to the game, but I hope they work it out, because certainly you want to be able to go out into this world and enjoy all the things that this world has to offer. And a lot of those companies are the ones that are behind that. So you hope that they do a good job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a chapter in your book, chapter 10, to be specific, that you say, give, get, and give again. And I just love that statement. So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I've been involved in charity forever. I've been in Make-A-Wish and these types of things, junior achievement and Boys and Girls Clubs. I've been doing this for a very long time. And you never want to get something from giving. Like, I'll give you an example. I don't find people that go to black tie events with silent auctions. I don't find that as heroic as most people do, because yeah, you're giving somebody $3,000, but you're also getting a vacation to Mexico out of it.
Right.
So, the trip was donated. I give more heroics to the people who donated the trip. Okay. And so for those who go out with the intent on giving so they can get something back, That to me is almost right. Okay.
Yeah.
And so for me, I always thought, well, you have to give of your time, treasure, and your talents, because that's when it's incumbent upon all of us humans to do that, especially, when you start to see what the world needs out there. So
Yeah.
For me, it was always, I wanted to give and help somebody and see the result of that, but I never really wanted anything in return. But I can tell you, the weird thing is, I don't know if it's karma or what it is, but the more you give, the more seems to come your way. And it's just one of those things. I can't put my finger on it. I can't count on it. I can't describe it other than to say, the more we are generous with our time, talent, and treasure, the more those things seems to come to us. And that allows us to do more of it.
Yeah.
So
it's very rewarding.
It is. Yeah. And here's the thing. People think giving is all about money. I'll give you a quick example. I don't know if you have a Ronald McDonald House in your area.
In New York City, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can literally go to the grocery store with $50 in your hand, buy a bunch of groceries, go to a Ronald McDonald House. We do it twice a year. You cook a big spaghetti dinner, you have a big salad, you put garlic bread together, you cook green beans or whatever you want to do.
Now I'm getting hungry, Ken.
Yeah. You put it in these foil trays, you put it in the refrigerator, and then you disappear. You never get to see who benefits from it, but it's the parents of some child who's suffering from some terrible disease in the hospital across the street.
Yeah.
But for $50, 6 or 8 of you can go have an amazing 2 or 3 hours cooking together, talking together, laughing together. And then you just split, and that something really cool is going to happen that evening, whether you see it or not.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take a lot of money to give. It just takes of your willingness to do it.
Yeah. That's really very special. Speaking of giving and charitable, tell us a little bit more about your book and the course that you've created within this book.
Well, I wrote this book because I wanted to tell the other side of the story. I'm not anti-college. I'm really not. Okay. If you're going to operate on my shoulders so I can get back out on the golf course, I want you to know everything there is to know about a knife before you pick it up and come at me. Okay? So
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. And the same thing goes with teaching and architecture and engineering and finance. I mean, you got to know that stuff. So yeah, but you're going to college for a specific reason, to get a specific degree, and there's a specific job waiting for you at the end of that. So yeah, for me, it's not that I'm anti-college. I just wanted it to say, okay, well, college was always one of 6 pathways to success. The other ones being tech school, trade school, working right out of college, working for somebody else, in an apprenticeship, a military career where you can learn an amazing skill like working on the engines of jet planes and use that forever. So yeah, there's a lot of different pathways to get there. And I wrote this book to kind of have people understand that by the time you put your 2 feet on the bed or on the floor out of your bed in the morning, to the time you get to your office or school or church or wherever you're going, you've crossed 1,000 blue collar jobs that are still viable today. And there's so much money in it because the supply and demand problems are going on with blue collar workers that I needed to trumpet that a little bit. So I've never believed in books being trophies where you read them and stick them on the shelf and go, look at how cool I am. I read all these books. I believe that you should physically do something with that information. So I created an 8-session course. It's an hour per session, and you can do it as quickly or take as long as time as you need. But it really changes your mind about what the rest of your life is going to look like. So what I did is I put together this program where I've seen courses for hundreds and thousands of dollars, but I built this for $99. You get a free $25 book with it. And when you do that, I'm going to donate one to a friend, a neighbor of yours, grandson, granddaughter, nephew, niece, whoever that you could see that might need this information. So not only are you helping yourself if you get involved in this, but you're helping somebody else at the same time. And I would hope that people would take advantage of that information.
Well, that's really great. We're going to make sure that is in the show notes. And I do a career page that's every 2 weeks. I also do a monthly newsletter. So we'll make sure that that's in there because I'm sure that will help someone else, and certainly two, because it's in need. And the fact that you wrote this just to, continue that mentorship, young, let me ask you something. What's the age range of those who are employed by you?
Well, anywhere from 18 to 55 or 60. So it's pretty across the board. I'll tell you something interesting. You just reminded me of something. So there's basically three readers of this book. There's the young people who are trying to figure out what they want their life to look like, and they're trying not to listen to all the noise and just get into their own head and say, what do I want? Okay.
Yep.
So that's one. The second one is someone who did all that, went to college, didn't want to, was told to, and now they're in their mid 30s and they're like, I hate my job. I always wanted to be a finished carpenter. I want to quit and transition back to that.
Yeah.
So that's another reader. But the third one, the most interesting one, which I didn't expect, was we have companies doing book clubs with this book so that they can align all of their people the way we do here and say, let's build a really goal-oriented, self-managing group of people to really run this company as far as we can take it, and then share a piece of that newfound success with them in the process. So that was the one I didn't expect, but that's helped propel the book a little bit as well. So pretty cool.
Well, interesting. You said, as soon as you give, you get more. And that's exactly what you did.
Well, I would hope so. It's been a heck of a ride so far. I read this, I Googled this the other day because, you want to be successful with your book and you want to sell a lot of copies of it. And, they say only 1 in 25,000 authors ever sells 1,000 copies of their book or more. And I found that to be like shocking. Okay.
Wait, say that number again. Only 1 in 25,000 authors ever sells more than 1,000 copies of their book. Wow.
Isn't that crazy? And we got lucky because last fall it became a bestseller. I think we crossed 25 or 30,000 copies so far, and it keeps going. So we're hoping for a good long tail success here.
Well, that's great. That is really great. I have read excerpts of it. I'm looking forward to, I may either do the audio or do the course. I'm not sure yet. I have options now. So I'm looking forward to reading the whole thing. But Ken, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I think that in the times that we're facing right now, your story and your drive and your mentorship is really essential for those of all ages. We've discovered now 18 to 60 and beyond. So it's really great having you on the show. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being on here.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always nice to talk about this very necessary message, and I just appreciate you giving me the time today.
Sounds good. You be well.
You as well.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back soon with a brand new episode of the Heart Inspired podcast. Until then, I'm your host, Michelle Delgado. And don't forget to lean in, be heard, be inspired. This podcast was created by Heart Metrics Consulting, editing and co-produced by David Castle Productions, and co-distributed by Business Travel 360. For more information about Heart Metrics Consulting, visit us at heartmetrics.com.